traitors!
Welcome to Panels and Borders. I'm Dominic, and this is episode 4 of Comic Covers. And this week I'm going to be talking about a comic book cover that ties into a movie franchise, a failed movie franchise. And this movie franchise was based on a novel, and that novel is Dune by Frank Herbert. Now, I've been a Dune fan for many, many years, and Dune is my all-time favorite science fiction book. I've read it 4 times, and I've read all the sequels to it, plus most of the new books by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. But my fandom for Dune didn't start overnight. It was planted like a seed many, many years ago, and the seed was planted by this movie, the David Lynch 1984 film. Now, back in the day, access to movies wasn't the same as it is now. There was no YouTube, no video on demand, there was no Netflix, no Crave TV, none of that kind of stuff. What there was basic cable, and that in my area was 13 channels. So you had to wait for a movie to either come on TV or catch it in the theater or VHS rental. Now, one of the other options was a movie channel that when I was a kid was called First Choice Superstation. And how First Choice Superstation worked, each month they would play a different roster of movies. And when they were done that month, they would switch up the roster to a different roster of movies that would play continuously throughout that month. Well, one of the months, the movie that was playing that month in the roster was Dune. And I was down at a friend's house, and his parents had First Choice Superstation, and this movie happened to be on. I didn't catch the whole thing, but I caught the last half of the movie, and it really captured my imagination, and I was really fascinated by it. It was strange, it was mysterious, it was something totally different from Star Trek and different from Star Wars. It looked different, sounded different. I had never seen anything like it before, because growing up, Star Wars and Star Trek were the 2 staples of science fiction. So I watched the movie, and after I was done watching the movie, didn't give it much thought, and kind of forgot about it. Initially was intrigued by it, but then forgot about it. And a few years down the road, watched it again. But when I watched it the second time, I watched the whole thing. I didn't really get it. I didn't really get into it, and I thought it was kind of dragged out and boring. Now, the next time I watched it was when I was in my middle to late teens. That would have been somewhere around the mid-90s to late 90s. I watched this movie again, and that time when I watched it, I started to grow more of an appreciation for it, and started to become a fan of the film. Now, all this while, I didn't know that Dune was based on a science fiction book. So as soon as I found that out, I picked up the book, read it, and fell in love with the book, and just became a huge Dune fan. And now I own Dune on DVD, and I own the 2000 Dune miniseries on DVD, along with the sequel, The Children of Dune, on DVD. And so the comic book I'm going to be talking about is tied to this movie, and it's Dune, 1 April 1985. And this is the comic book cover that I'm going to be talking about. And this comic book cover is a painted one by an artist called Bill Sienkiewicz. And Bill Sienkiewicz did a lot of covers like this for Marvel in the 80s, these really nice painted covers. And very realistic looking, not quite photorealistic like Alex Ross. Alex Ross has a very photorealistic style, but his is more, I find Bill's style more of a psychedelic feel to it. You know, he has all these strange lines shooting out from the paintings, and you know, it's a little bit more impressionistic. And as you can see, it's a great collage, this cover. It's got Paul Atreides at the center with the weirding module and a still suit on. And up in the top corner has the Sardaukar guards, and then the training robot that he trained against. And then down in the corner, it's got the Bene Gesserit, which in behind her we see the Space Guild navigator inside of his spice gas tank, and in the background we can see the sky and landscape and the 2 moons of the planet Arrakis, and it's framed in black against a white background. And Marvel used to do a lot of these movie tie-ins, like this would always be a 1 in 3 or 1 in 4. They did it for Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back. You know, they did it for the movie Crawl. They did this for a lot of films, and always in this style. And really, and what I like about this cover, it's got this cool painting framed in black, but it's sort of a simple, plain cover. I mean, the logo itself, the Dune font, it's just simple black, and it's not really overdone to really jump off the page, but it still really works, and it really works well. Now, Bill Sienkiewicz, he painted and illustrated all 3 issues in this miniseries. So all 3 issues have these really nice painted covers like that, and they look really great up on the wall. And I found these in a back issue shop, and when I found them, I just had to buy them up, because unlike Star Wars and Star Trek, there isn't a lot of merchandise tied to Dune. So whenever I find it, I have to grab it. And because I'm not really a big collector of comics that tie into big movies. When it comes to collecting comics, I was always more into the superhero stuff. That was my main staple. Every now and then I would pick up a comic that was tied into a movie. It would usually be Star Trek or Star Wars, or maybe Aliens or Predator. And once in a while a Terminator comic, but not too often. It was mostly just the superhero stuff. But Dune I had to grab this because you don't really come across a lot of Dune stuff. So anything Dune related, I grab it from this movie, because there's not very many action figures. The action figures for this film is very far and few between. Where if you're a Star Wars fan, ever since the Clone Wars, or I mean the prequels came out, I mean there's been non-stop Star Wars merchandise. I mean you can get Star Wars everything now. And the thing about Dune, you can't even get Dune in vinyl pop form. And Vinyl Pop has made almost everything into a Vinyl Pop figure that has ever been in pop culture. They've even made Bob Ross into a Vinyl Pop. So it's rare to find Dune stuff. I'm hoping that changes, because there is a new Dune film coming out in the next few years, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that's everything I have to say about this cover. I really like this cover, and I'm a big, huge Dune fan. And let me know in the comments if you like this cover, what you think of it. And, if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And I will see you at the next one.